Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to your communication skills class again. Today we are to begin with our lecture number 5, in which we are going to thoroughly discuss different C's of communication. I hope that I have discussed with you earlier that how this communication C, this C of communication basically is very important when we talk about communication and communicating with in English. To begin, before we begin and before we talk about these 7 C's of communication, let's quickly recap that what we have done in our previous lecture. As you can very well see on the slide on my back, in the last lecture we have thoroughly talked about the verbal communication in detail. We thoroughly discussed that what exactly is verbal communication and how do we communicate through verbal expressions. We discussed the 2 major categories of verbal communication. The first one is written. Your verbal communication can be available when it's about written, and your verbal communication is available when it's about spoken language. So throughout your semester, throughout your study time, we will keep on discussing that how your verbal communication is divided into 2 categories, into written and into spoken. In written category, we will thoroughly see that how you would be able to make different letters, write down different short messages, then write down different sentences, then paragraphs. Then from moving on to paragraphs, how you can create and how you can write down sentences, and then moving on to the technical side, how you can write down letters, memos, and other stuff that is related to your verbal communication and particularly related to your business communication. We will also see that how you can categorize all these things into your business life, whatsoever is required in your business and your practical life. We will make sure that you know that how to write them. And the very important thing in your business communication is your resume, that is your CV, along with your cover letter. That we would also learn that how to make one cover letter and how to present yourself in front of someone whom you want to with whom you want to work for the rest of your life, and the company which you want to establish or with which you want to groom your future with. The second category was spoken, along with how to present your resume, how to present your cover letter, how to actually write down your applications for jobs, how to actually write down your applications for leaves, how to actually write down your applications for good news, and then complaint letters and all this stuff. We will also learn that how you are supposed to speak and present yourself in front of the different number of audiences. Either that's going to be a presentation, like you are giving a solo presentation, or you are actually appearing for a job interview. So in all these things we will practice our speaking skills, and I would make sure that you listen to some speaking extempore sessions, which will automatically help you see that how on the spot, when people are being given some topics, how do they quickly outline their thoughts and how do they quickly deliver their thoughts in front of the audiences. The second category that we discussed in the last lecture was our non-verbal communication, in which we thoroughly discussed that how your non-verbal communication is so strong and should be so strong, because earlier in our previous lectures we talked that it's 55% of your overall communication. So other than your verbal communication, we also learned that you have another category, that is your non-verbal communication, and that is more stronger than your verbal communication. The way you move your hands, the way your facial expressions, they change, your eye contact, your hand movements, the way you are sitting, the way you are standing, the way you are moving, all of these things, they make a lot of difference. So we will make sure that we are going to study all these things also. So to cut it down, we have thoroughly talked about verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is basically categorized into your facial expressions, your postures and gestures, just standing postures, your hand movements and all these. However, verbal expressions are supposed to convey your message through words. That has something to do with the written and spoken communication. Then third category that we discussed in our previous lecture was paraverbal communication. That was another important part of our communication that we have also discussed. Basically, verbal communication is about what you say, and whatever you are saying and how you are saying it are two different things. So the way you are saying it, how you say it is what we call a paraverbal communication, like your tone, your pitch, your voice, your stress on different words, the intonation, they'll make a lot of difference once you are talking. The way I am talking right now and the way I am communicating my thoughts right now is somewhat that I am putting stress on a few words, and my pitch and my tone is automatically telling you that what exactly is my focus of talk and what do I want to stress on. So this is what you call paraverbal communication, that has more to do with how you say things. So that was a recap of paraverbal communication, how you say things. The fourth thing that we discussed in the previous lecture was barriers in communication. We thoroughly discussed that what is a barrier. It's a hurdle, it can be a stoppage, it can be a obstacle, and we have thoroughly learned that how these barriers can create, or how these barriers can create misinterpretations between the sender and the receiver. Now what could be the language barriers? That one we have learned in our previous lecture. We talked about some of the different categories of language barriers that can happen or that can occur because of words. Words, basically they have got their connotative meanings and they have then their denotative meanings. So we have basically categorized them into two. We also talked about how abstracting and how relating, how abstracting thing and how misleading terminologies can lead to language barrier, one of the language barriers. Then we discussed some of the physiological barriers that can occur because of your physical state or either your physical environment. We also discussed the psychological barriers that has something to do with your mind, your state of mind. Like there are some set patterns in our society that we are following, and then we also discuss some of the cultural barriers. That is another interesting category that we have discussed in our previous lecture. Then we thoroughly talked about how to improve your verbal and non-verbal communication at your workplace, and we have thoroughly discussed that how actually you can work on them and how you are going to practically see that you are going to become one good business communicator, since your course is going to be all about business communications, and that's going to be this is basically a BBA course. So we would make sure that you are going to learn each and everything that is related to your business. So let's talk about our today's lecture, and let's see that how these 7 C's of communication. Now if you see on the slide, it's written 7 C's of communication. It's kind of, if you see this word C, that's kind of more or less like this word C, right? Or that's more like kind of word C. Now you would see that, and that's like a huge C that you are going to see of your communication or related to your communication. So this is what is going to be our main focus of today's lecture. We are going to talk about the 7 C's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Now these are our 7 C's of communication, C's which we are going to talk thoroughly, that you are supposed to keep in mind and that you are supposed to remember, and your language is going to be the perfect one once you will try to communicate with your participants. So let's first of all discuss what exactly is business writing. As all of you are BBA students and you know that what business is all about, that's something technical, and that is something, or that's kind of a profession. Now the language that will be used in your business would be a kind of a technical or a professional language. Now once you talk about that what is business writing, let's read down the definition. Business writing is a workplace writing. Now, business is kind of a thing that is your business. Now, if you ask someone that what do you do, and they say that I'm running my own business. Now, what do they mean by, or what do they mean to say is that they are running their business? In other words, it means that they have their own workplace, or where they are working, or if they are working with someone else. So it automatically tells you that it's kind of a setup where they are working. So that's kind of a workplace, which is a form of a technical writing. Now if you relate business writing to business, of course the writing, any kind of the writing that you are doing for your business would become your technical writing, or that would become your workplace writing, and that it will automatically become your technical piece of writing. So in other words, you can say that business writing is your workplace writing. Any piece of writing, any receipt that you are making, any voucher that you are making, any like for example, you go to the market every day You purchase something. Now there is a salesman who is sitting on the desk and he asks you that, sir, what you have purchased. Now he has got that particular machine with which he would, tap on the product that you have purchased, and then the price of the product would automatically appear on the screen, and he would give you a receipt of that. Now that receipt would carry a particular language that is there, that is defining that what you have purchased, that is returnable, that is not returnable, non-refundable, or stuff like that. So this is kind of workplace writing, or that's kind of a very technical writing that is understandable by, or that is being composed by only those people who are basically working in a very particular situation or on a very particular scenario. So business writing basically is your workplace writing that automatically becomes your technical writing, or an example of the technical writing. So to go into the details of what exactly and how you exactly define business writing. Business writing is a technical communication or a technical writing. Now you are basically what exactly you are doing, you are writing down something. Once you are doing your business, you are writing down something that is technical, and once you are writing down something technical, that would automatically become your technical communication. Alright, let's make it clear with a very simple example. You want to work with any organization, and they are also interested in hiring you. You go there, you won't go empty-handed. Of course, you would have your certificates with you, you would have your credentials with you, you would go there. You would ask them to give you a job, and how would you do that? You would write down an application. Now this application is going to be your technical paper, that is your business writing. They would accept your application, maybe they would ask you for your resume or your CV. Now what they would do is they would file up your resume and your application, and they would process it. Now that process of selecting you and then judging out and then deciding that how much salary you are going to get, which position you would be sitting in, then what kind of the equipment you would require to work in this organization, would you require any kind of the accommodation or any kind of transportation. So all of these things would happen on, first of all, on papers, and the way it would happen on the papers is going to be some kind of the technical writing that would automatically become your business communication or your technical communication. So in other words, I hope that you are understanding that the kind of the communication or the kind of the writing that is involved in any business is known as business communication or the technical communication. Since that's kind of not very formal communication, that is different from the way you chat with your friends, you send text messages to your friends, you write down notes to your friends. That is kind of different from the way you are working in the offices and at your workplace. So this is what you call business writing, and this is how you define one business writing in a very good way. Alright, so workplace writing basically is generally a persuasive writing. As I have told you earlier, that the kind of the letters that you are writing, the kind of the CVs that you are making, or the kind of the information that you are trying to send is going to persuade the next person towards your subject of attention. So this is why, and that is why we call technical writing a kind of a persuasive writing. Now there are a few examples that you can very well see on the slide as well. For example, a resume to persuade a potential employer to offer an interview. So what do you do when you see a job advertisement in a newspaper? You write down an application along with your CV, that is your resume, and you send it to the potential organization or the employer to offer or to call you for the interview, and this is your main target. And this is a kind of a persuasive writing, and a very good example of persuasive writing that is basically the main core of your business administration or this BBA course. Another example is findings of the report. A findings report to persuade employees to follow certain policies or procedures in order to improve performance or correct errors or problems. Now maybe you have purchased a product from any kind of any franchise or any shop. Now you have found out some errors or maybe some problems in that very machine or that very product. Now what you would do is maybe you can write down the complaint letter, or maybe you can write down a note, or maybe you can write down a findings report that this is the problem in this machine and it can be rectified in this way. This is what I found in this machine and it can be replaced with this thing so that it can work better. Now your findings is a kind of a thing that happens to persuade the potential this client to make sure that you are treated well in future, or they are going to produce good products in future. So this is how I've given you two examples of the workplace writing, that is your persuasive writings like resume and findings report. And there are so many other examples that can be incorporated in kind of the workplace writing. All of these workplace writings are kind of persuasive. When you go into to buy something in the market and they say that retail price was this, but we have reduced that price to this 5% discount and stuff like that. So they are giving you some kind of the persuasion to see that how much and how often you are going to visit their stores. Now there are some examples of, and there are some types of workplace writings. They will help you understand that what kind of things can be used in your business, and what kind of things you would come across in your business administration. First thing that we are going to discuss and I am going to share with you and I will brief you thoroughly is business letters. Now this is very common type of one very common type of workplace writing that is being seen by everyone in the workplace, that is letter. Now letters in business as written here, they are more formal and they are being written for the external communication. And now you are sitting in a company and your boss wants to address something to you. Now your boss will not write down a letter to you. Rather he would prefer sending you an email, or maybe he would prefer calling up a meeting, but he will not send you a letter. So usually letters are kind of those formal communication. They are not informal. Of course you don't call them, hi sir, how are you, I want to apply for this job, or hello Jack, I'm going there so I'll be back, and stuff like that. So they are not kind of internal communication. They are kind of external communication, like dear sir or ma'am, our company has launched this product and we would be very pleased if you see the performance of our company in last years, and so on and so forth. So they are kind of external communication. Let you send letter to any other company, you send letter to any other organization to let them know, or to introduce sometimes, or to send regrets, maybe for signing up any MOU, or maybe for holding a meeting or anything. So this is how business letters are basically a kind of an external communication, a total outside or total external communication where, like for example, if this is a room where we are sitting and we are, let's say, working in the same organization. Now you and me, we work in the same organization, so if I have to communicate with you, I will not send you a letter. But if we have to communicate with someone who is sitting in any other company or in any other organization, of course we will write them a letter requesting requesting for any machine, maybe calling up a meeting or anything like that. Then second thing is email transmissions. Now this email is really very important. That can be informal, or they can be external as well as internal correspondence to the personal friends and colleagues. Now external correspondence is written to the business associates. Like for example, any outsider sends you an email, you can reply them also if you don't want to. If you feel that letter would be a late reply to them, you can send them an email. Since internet is also known as super highway, so your message would reach them very quickly and very efficiently. And it can be also internal correspondence to your personal friends and your colleagues in the organization. And now if your colleague is sending you any attachment that was required with the email and you forgot, so you would send them an informal email with a smiley saying that I forgot to attach this email. Now you have this kind of, very informal, you have got this understanding with your colleagues, and they understand that you are not doing it professionally. But if you are doing something, or if you are sending something outside the organization, of course you have to be very, very professional. So that professional tone will automatically make you, or make your email, one good formal email. And the third category, or the third type of business communication, or the workplace writing, is memorandum or memoranda. Now that's informal style of business letter, internal correspondence written to colleagues within a company. That's kind of informal, yet it carries one format. We call it an informal kind of a correspondence, but yet it carries one format, and there are hard and fast rules for writing down one memorandum. Memorandum are not any kind of the external communication, they are internal, because only the company people, or the people who are working in one organization, they are aware of that very structure, and they know that what's going on in the company. Then the fourth example of workplace writing is reports. Now there can be financial reports, they can be audit reports, they can be statistical reports that identify that specific problem and presents collected data, research, or recommendations for the change process. So any reports written for the financial or audit or statistical reports are basically known as your workplace writings, because they carry one particular structure and one particular format. Then you would also be aware of this word contract. Now contracts are written between two organizations, or between two or more organizations. Now these contracts are kind of bindings or agreements or proposals between two or more parties. Now see, between two or more parties that can become legal document if they include an offer that is accepted. Now you want to purchase something from any other organization that is very costly. What do? You basically sign up an agreement between two of you, and you try to see that how you are going to go or how you are going to go about that. Now moving on to the manuals, that's a written set of instructions, procedures, or policies. Like the way you purchase a machine and you find a manual inside that machine to how to operate that very machine. Now that's kind of a set of instructions, procedures, or policies written there, like that's kind of a manual, kind of a hard copy of how to exactly use that product, or how to exactly use that machine. Then another type of business communication is PowerPoint. Now that's a software generated visual slideshow. Now that's a visual slideshow which you see on your computer slides, computer screen, and that's a software with animation options that hosts a set of notes or bullet points. As you can very well see on my back, how these PowerPoint slides are so powerful that you can convey your ideas, your thoughts, and your express the facts and figures to the number of audiences who are sitting, or who are attending the meeting, or maybe who are attending the lectures just like you. So a PowerPoint basically has become one of the very powerful tool in business communication, and it makes sure that your data is presented in a very beautiful way to the audiences, maybe who are or who belong to your organization, as well as the audiences who are coming from the other organizations. So these are some of the types that we have discussed about the workplace writings, and we will see basically in today's lecture we will see that how you are going to practice writing each one of them, since we are to work on your verbal communication so that you can become good business communicators. And once we talk about business has something to do with your professional language. So we will work on your professional communication, and we will work on your professional language as to make sure that you achieve the level of all the business communicators once we are going to work on our 7 C's of communication. Now, general tip of the business is it is generally expected and common business practice to keep photocopies, hard paper copies of any communication that you send to another person regarding any business matter. Now, this photocopying thing is really very important. You are supposed to photocopy any important paper that is there. You feel that you can or you may misplace that letter, or maybe that paper is really very important. Any email that you feel is kind of a confidential, any confidential material that you want to get the photocopies of. So it is the best idea that you keep one extra copy in the office of all the material that you feel is important for the future record, because life is kind of very unpredictable, and you cannot predict that what's going to happen next. Sometimes you have blasts in the country, sometimes the situation is out of control, sometimes you have this building burns and all these conditions. So it's a very good idea to keep one copy, one extra photocopy for the future references, so that you are not going to lose all the records. Now, there are some tips that how to create effective technical or workplace writings. Your focus must be on the purpose of the writing. So the first thing that you are going to focus on is the purpose. What exactly is my purpose of writing down this and this piece of paper? So this is going to be your major focus, and this is going to be your major point that you are going to focus on once you want to write down something. Focus on your readers, that is your audiences. Try to see and try to keep in mind that who is your target audiences and who is your reader, so that you can write down your things accordingly. Satisfy document requirements like style, visuals, data. So everything has to be factual. Whatsoever information that you are providing in your document has to be very, like if you are writing down any memorandum, that is to be written in the form of a memorandum, not in the form of an essay or not in the form of a letter. If the visuals, if you are asked to, or if you are supposed to insert any graphs or charts or any kind of graphics, so make sure that they are there, or any data that is required, so make sure that you are going to fulfill all the document requirements that are there. Get to the point, that is concise, like you are your sentences are not very large or very long, which are not going to be understandable by the lay audience or normal audiences. Provide accurate information. It means that your information is going to be very realistic and accurate. That should be correct. So another C that we have or we are coming across is correction, correct information. Express yourself clearly. So this clarity is again important. That is related to your grammar and proofreading. So you are going to check for the grammatical errors. You are going to also check for the punctuation errors. And how would you do that? You would check your documents by having a thorough look at them and by doing this proofreading of them. Format your pages carefully, be neat and leave white space in between. So once you are doing this proofreading, make sure that you are going to leave this space between the lines, so that for the future clarification and future references, you have that record of, you can write down the material between the lines, and then you can adjust them later into your slides. Then manage your time efficiently, meet the deadlines. Of course, before writing down something or before creating something, you would make your timeline, that by this time I'm supposed to do this, by this time I'm supposed to do this, and this is how you would meet deadlines, and by doing that you would make sure that how you are going to go about that. Now let's quickly see that how you can format a business memo. One example, let's quickly see that, so that you have an idea of how these workplace writings and how these business writings looks like. We will thoroughly talk about letters, memos, CVs in our upcoming lectures, once we are going to thoroughly talk about the writing process. But today, since we are to discuss the 7 C's of communication, so it's really very important that you know how to that you know the format of something, like we will discuss a business memo today. So you will know automatically that how you would rectify the problems in other materials or in other kind of this technical writing, and you would see that how you can apply these 7 C's of communication in any workplace writing. Now, what should you know about business memos? Business memos, as I've already told you, that they are kind of, internal correspondence, since memos are exchanged within the organization and they move within the organization. They are used within an organization, so they are internal communication. So let's write it down for your convenience, so that you remember in the future that they are internal communication, and internal communication means that they are written within the company. Oh, it's also written here within the organization. Alright, it's usually an informal in style, although it has got some elements that you are supposed to follow strictly, but that's kind of informal, since that don't have to go outside the company, so you don't have to, be very, very careful about, losing out anything or adding anything that is additional. Normally function as a non-sensitive communication. So basically it normally functions as a non-sensitive communication, so that's not a very sensitive matter. Now you come to the office, you see a memo, and you automatically know that this is going to be about a meeting, this is going to discuss any agenda. Now you come to the office and you see a letter that is, sealed in an envelope, so that is kind of, sensitive, and that's kind of worrying, that you would quickly open the letter and you would try to see that what exactly has happened and why is it there on my desk. They are basically short and to the point. Now memos are basically very short, since they I will show you the this structure of memo, that how exactly it looks like. It defines the date, it defines from whom it is coming from, it defines basically the sender, it defines the receivers, those who are going to receive the memo. It defines the subject, and in a very quick and brief paragraphs, which has got the introduction, which has got the middle, and which has got the ending, it would automatically explain them that what is it going to be about and what exactly the subject is about. It has got the business tone and no slangs or jokes. So, of course, the language that is going to be used in memos that makes it a business memo or a technical memo is that the kind of the language that we are going to use in these memos is going to be business tone. Now, this is not kind of a tone that we use every day with our friends, with our colleagues. There should not be any jokes, or there should not be any pranks or any kind of slangs in it. Do not require a salutation, that is a formal greeting. Now in a letter you have this dear sir and ma'am or dear so and so, but in the memo you don't have to do that, so it's kind of informal. It do not have a complimentary clause, as does a business letter end. So it doesn't have any signatures at its end, or it doesn't have any ending like kind regards or best regards or thank you or yours sincerely or yours obediently. All of them, they are complimentary clauses. It has a format that is very different from the business letter, yet it has a format, as I've already told you, but it is really different from the business letter that we write to any other business organization, or that we write for the business purposes. They may address one person or a group of individual. So it can be written for one person as well as a group of individuals. So the names of the individuals would be identified by the end of the memo, that to whom this copy is to be sent and where this copy would go. So I hope that you have understood the actual that what exactly business memos are about. Now you can see the sample on the slide, and I hope that you see something that is kind of technical yet that's informal. So that's let's begin with, this is your memorandum. As you can see, this is written, this is to. Now you would write down where it is supposed to go. Okay, it says it is written for CBA students. From, you are supposed to write down the name of the person from whom it is being sent, but you see there is no designation of the person who is sending this information. So this designation is to be hidden, or it is not exactly identified in the memorandum. That makes it more informal. Then date, that is written like this, and then your subject. Alright, so the subject of the memo is how to write a memo, that itself says. Alright, this is your introduction paragraph. which explains the executive summary of that what exactly you are going to talk about. So once you are going to write about the introduction, get to the point quickly, that you know what your purpose is, what content you are going to put in. Then in the second paragraph, this is going to be your first paragraph. In your second paragraph, you are going to quickly discuss, start the body with body headings. Maybe you have any agenda to explain, maybe you have anything. And in the third paragraph, you would quickly wrap up. That's going to be your ending, where you would end your memo by saying that I would look forward to meeting you or something like that. And then you have this CC, that is carbon copy. Maybe you are sending it to your instructor. Now once your instructor is going to get this carbon copy, he is going to sign it here, like the way I have signed it right now. So it has got this special note for maybe your instructor, or maybe the person whom you want to send the carbon copy to. So this is how basically memorandum looks like. Although language that we use is a kind of professional, yet we don't use any slangs, any pranks, or any jokes in this business communication, since that's kind of a technical writing, and it follows a structure. It has got a particular format that is different from writing letters, and that is different from writing reports. Now another example for your goodwill, so that you understand that how to format a business report. Now before formatting a business report, let's understand that what is a business report. A business report is a technical report designed to persuade readers. As I've told you in the beginning, that you write down these finding reports. Findings report. You conduct a survey that carries 10 questions. That is a questionnaire survey. You distribute that 10 questions questionnaire to 50 people. And those 50 people, they reply back to you. You have made your question paper on the Likert scale, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now these 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 would automatically convey the message that the first one refers to strongly disagree, second one disagree, third one neutral, fourth one agree, and fifth one strongly agree. So the people who are writing down or who are replying back to your this questionnaire would label the numbers where after every question with which they agree or which with they don't agree. You would put that into, or you would do the SPSS analysis or the statistical analysis of whatsoever or the data that you have collected, and through that data you are going to find out something that is going to be very, very factual, that is going to be very, very realistic, because that's kind of observation of the people who are sitting around you. Now you go to restaurants every day, you go to these fast food chains every day. They give you one card at the end, like comments please. Now those comments, they seek your comments like did you like the services, are you satisfied with the cleanliness of the restaurant, and other questions like that. You label them and you mark them and you come back home. But the people who are working, the managerial people who are working in the restaurants, they try to evaluate them. They try to find out that how much they have made today, and how many customers, do they like their cleanliness, do they like their food, do they like their services, do they like their charges, and other stuff like that. So this is what you call findings report. They are basically made for, or they are basically sent to other organizations for the persuasion purpose. That's a written business report communicates research findings, as I have already briefed what these research findings are about and how you send these research findings. Then sometimes you have progressive evaluations, which try to evaluate into different parts or into different chunks that how your task or your project is progressing. Then there are some proposal plans or other information which is regarding a business practice, any situation or any project which can be made into, or which can be built into any kind of business report. Then why create business reports? In a global society, the ability to report findings and develop expansion plans and propose solutions to business related problems give company a strategic advantage in world markets. Now you create business reports because you want to get the advantage that is going to be the strategic advantage for your goodwill. Business reports, formal or informal, are technical communication that support business by persuading business leaders, employees, clients, and other business stakeholders. So this is what is the basic purpose of creating the business reports. Now, basically, business communication or business technical writing or business workplace writing, whatever you call it, basically, regardless of whatever you write, consider this triangle on my back. You have a writer. You are a writer, basically. Your ethics, morals, skill, set, and plans to use your characteristics to meet your purpose. So you use all your efficiencies, all your ethics, all your morals, all your skills, all your plans, all your characteristics to achieve the purpose of your writing. Then you have your subject. That logic you will present your topic or the message. Any logic. Now you have one particular topic, you have one particular purpose or the subject that you want to send to the audiences. Now that's a triangle. You are sitting here, you have one subject and you want that, or you want to convey that very subject to your audiences, and automatically your audiences will reply back to you. That is based on your selection of the characteristics, the morals, the skills, the plans that you have used for writing down or labeling down anything. Your audiences, of course, they have the passions, interests, or characteristics of the ones you are trying to persuade and their characteristics. So this is what you call a triangle between writer, audiences, and subject. That is basically a structure that moves on in every business communication type that is there and that is to be understandable by everyone. Now your business or formal business report format looks like this. You have your title page first of all, then you have list of tables and illustrations, you have your letter of transmittal, you have your executive summary, table of contents. All of these papers, they are known as your prefatory pages. Then you have introduction that is required, header may start on this page. Then you have methods of research, these are basically your chapters. Then you have your findings and analysis, this is your chapter 1, this is your chapter 2, this is your chapter 3, and this is your chapter 4. Then you have another portion that is known as appendices, graphics, and tables that they are, kind of, they basically happen to occur at the end of any business report, and they are very important because sometimes you appendicize something, any graph or any table that your audiences may read after, or they are kind of, complementary or additional documents which are attached with your report that your audiences may read for their clarification. Now coming to the 7 C's of communication that we will discuss today thoroughly, which starts with completeness, then conciseness, then consideration, then clarity, then concreteness, then courtesy, and then correctness. Now all these C's of communication that we would see are basically required in any business communication that we want to make a perfect solution for our audiences, because our main purpose of providing or producing any technical document or any business document or any workplace writing is to persuade and to inform our audiences. So we would see that we are going to achieve all these C's of communication in our writing. We would practice them one by one as we would keep on discussing them one by one thoroughly. We would make sure that we are going to discuss them one by one thoroughly, so that by the end of today's lecture you have an idea that how am I supposed to create one letter and how I am supposed to create one report or a memorandum. I've shown you 2 patterns of memo and this report as well, so that you have the rough idea of that how these are divided into different formats, and each format is to be written in a different way, yet that is going to be of course written in a very professional way. And to write down anything that is professional, you need a lot of knowledge, and you need the knowledge that is also known as technical knowledge or the business knowledge. So if you know that how to write down things for business purposes, of course you would be able to write down anything once you know the format or the pattern of them. So to begin with, let's start with the completeness. As the word itself indicates, completeness stands for something that is complete. Business message is complete when it contains all facts the reader or listener needs for the reaction of your desire. Now, your message would be complete if it carries every single fact. Now, this fact is very important, which has to be there, or which should be there for the readers or the listeners who must respond to or who must react to your desires. As you strive for completeness, keep the following guidelines in mind. Now, for completeness, these are the guidelines that we are going to discuss one by one. Provide all necessary information to make it complete. All necessary information means that you feel should be known by the next person or the audiences, that they should know for understanding the task that you want to define to them. So this completeness is really very important. Answer all questions asked. So ask yourself that what can come in the mind of my audiences, or what can come in the mind of my reader. So accordingly, once you would start writing down something, okay, he can ask me this thing, all right, he can also ask me this question. So you would keep on writing down those questions on your rough sheet, and you would keep on answering those questions on your piece of paper where you are writing down your technical material. So this is how you are going to help yourself see that how you are going to ask yourself questions, or by asking yourself questions you can provide all the necessary information to the concerned party. Now, give something extra when desirable. You can provide them, or you can give them anything extra if you feel is desirable or can be desirable. Like, for example, you explain them one thing, or you provide them one fact, and with that fact you provide them a lot of examples. So this is what is the best idea of providing your professional candidate or your professional client with the extra or the desirable information along with the examples or along with the explanations. So all necessary information should be there. All questions that you feel are coming into your mind, which also can come in the mind of your audiences, should be answered. And also provide something extra. So this extra will help you achieve that level of completeness in your writing. So if I said, and once I said that you are going to answer all the questions that are asked, so you are going to give them something extra when desirable. To do so, you can check for all these 5 W's and 1 H. Now these 5 W's are who, what, when, where, and why, and how. And this is 1 H that we are going to discuss thoroughly in today's completeness task. Now, for example, just to give you an example, maybe you want to write down any sentence, or you want to create, or you want to write down any report for this completeness, and you want to send that report to the newspaper. And that topic of yours is related to the any incident or any accident. Now you would answer these questions, or you would ask these questions to yourself to make your information clear. Now I'm giving you one example. Now you want to write down one paragraph on the accident that has occurred, and you want to write down one paragraph. You would say that who was involved there, or who. Now you are answering this who first of all. Who actually was the victim of that very accident? What happened? What exactly happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? And why did it happen? So once you are going to answer all these W's, and who was there and who was the victim and how did it happen. So once you are going to answer all these questions, of course your story would be complete and there would not be any extra thing that would be required by the audiences. You would tell them what happened, of course that's going to cover the story. You would tell them that who was the victim, of course that's going to be one answer of their questions. You would tell them that when did it happen, of course that's going to tell about the date and the time, of course. Then you would tell them, or you would write down that where did it happen. So you would automatically define that where exactly did it happen. Why did it happen? You are going to define the reason for that. And how did it happen? You are going to check for this how, the background of that, how exactly it happened. For writing down any paragraph or for writing down any business thing, you would keep in mind that you are going to decide the sequence of these 5 W's and 1 H accordingly. So they will help you understand that how exactly you are going to answer the query of the person who is seeking information from you. Now let's discuss all the points one by one that I have already discussed with you. That's kind of a recap. Answering the 5 W's helps make message clear. So I hope that once you are going to answer who, what, when, where and why, they are going to automatically answer or satisfy the queries of the audiences. Answer all questions which are being asked. Look for questions. Some may even appear buried within a paragraph. Locate them and then answer precisely. So try to see that if you are reading your paragraph and you are giving the proofreading to your paragraph and you find that there is a question that is lying underneath or that is lying behind or that is buried inside the paragraph, try to answer that on your own, because that is going to help you answer all the questions that can be asked from your audiences. Give something extra when desirable. Use your good judgment in offering additional material if the sender's message was incomplete. So try to provide something extra, to provide them any extra information that a sender may seek or a sender may provide, or that the sender has provided and you have received. So try to give them extra so that they can get to know that you have or they have missed it. Exercise time. Now that we have discussed completeness, that requires 5 W's and 1 H, that requires asking questions, and that also requires or asking or providing something extra. I have selected some paragraphs and some exercises for you so that we can practice them in the classroom, and you later on you have this idea of that how you are going to solve them on your own later. So pick up your pen and copy. Your first exercise number 1 is right here. I will read it and you are supposed to answer the question on your own. You are the president of an industry. Now you are the president of an industry association and have received the following inquiry from an out-of-town member. Now you are the president of an industry association and you have received one inquiry from an out-town member. Now you have a member of your organization who is living out of station, who is living in any other city, and he has sent one query. I think I would like to attend my first meeting of the association even though I am not acquainted with your city. Alright, his first query is, I am not acquainted with your city. Will you please tell me where the next meeting is going to be held or is being held? Now he is requiring for, or he is asking for this where. How would you reply to this letter keeping in mind the completeness of the message? Now you are supposed to guide him or you are supposed to guide this member that where this meeting is going to take place, and you would keep in mind and you would make sure that all the 5 W's and 1 H are properly addressed in your answer to this exercise number 1. So pick up your pens and pick up your copies and write down the answers to exercise number 1. Keep in mind the 5 W's, which carries who, when, where, why, what, and one H, that is how. Now these are your 5 W's and 1 H. You would automatically answer them that who you are. First of all, you would answer them that when the meeting is going to take place, of course related to your query. Where the meeting will take place, this is going to be your major concern, because your potential client or the member of the association has required to, or he has asked you to write down this where. Then why do you have to attend this meeting? And environment. We thoroughly visited, and we have also seen some of the these displays of memorandum, and then we also saw this categories of in these parts of any report that can be written for any findings, or that can be written for in providing any information, or that can be written for persuading the profession or the potential client. So this is what we have discussed in today's lecture. Basically that was the continuation of, or that was basically about the 7 C's of communication that we would thoroughly discuss and we would drag to our next lecture, because keeping in mind the 7 C's of communication is very important. We have today, out of 7 C's, now they are left 6. We have discussed one important C of communication, that is completeness. Now this completeness is really very important once you talk about providing the message clearly to your audiences, and to provide the message clearly and completely to what the next person is looking for, or your audiences are seeking for. To do so, we have discussed 5 W's and 1 H, which are really very important, that are who, when, why, what, and where, and 1 H, that stands for how. We have seen that if you keep in mind these 5 W's and 1 H, they are going to help you answer your question completely. We also have discussed that how you can actually, by answering all the question and providing something extra, can help you make your work better, and can make your work complete in all aspects. So with that, I wish you very good luck for your lecture number 5. I'll see you again in the next class. Till then, take very good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.